Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business List, your source for stories inside the party, across the country, and around the world. My name is Amanda Griffiths. I'm joined by Rose Leatherman. I'm joined by Jake Porter. I'm not joined by Kyle Davis. He's just here. I have to sneeze. Maybe I don't. Everyone, how are you? While I think about sneezing.
I think a couple of us
Doing
are
great. How are you,
angry,
Amanda?
but otherwise, yeah.
Jake's doing
I'm
fine.
always
so
angry.
I can only guess that we're angry with Jake for some reason.
But that's the thing. We
That's
we
usual
do this
too.
publicly, but we've decided that we all hate you.
Yes, we've taken a vote.
What took you guys so long?
well-
There's like half the party that's been there for a long time.
I always give the benefit of the doubt for a time.
I don't. I've learned not to do these things. Since I don't have emotions, I'm the one tasked with running the show this evening. So we'll get right to it. We're starting with Venezuela, where, by the way, if those of you who have not seen our stream with Maria Alexandra Garcia, which aired on, I believe, was it Tuesday evening or Monday evening? It was Monday evening. Do check that out. That was a fantastic stream. She is the treasurer of the Libertarian International and also a Venezuelan American who had some really fantastic thoughts on, and some very important, valuable thoughts on the situation in Venezuela. As everyone knows by now, the Trump administration engineered a raid to arrest the dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. Maduro is now in New York awaiting trial, was arrested on various drug charges, as well as, I believe, a firearms charge, although that seems particularly dubious. Now, as many of you also know, about 18 months ago, the people of Venezuela, who have for decades been suffering under the thumb of state tyranny and oppression in the form this time of state socialism, the people of Venezuela did elect a president in Edmundo Gonzalez, and he was the stand-in essentially for the opposition leader Machado, who was not allowed to run. So the Venezuelan people essentially have elected leadership, the leadership they've wanted. Maduro refused to abdicate power, and so has been the dictator of Venezuela, along with Delcy Rodriguez, who is his so-called vice president. Now, Rodriguez remains in power. She is just as, by many local accounts, just as awful as Maduro, but of course the drug charges weren't against her. So the Trump administration has simultaneously said that it is taking over the administration of Venezuela while also leaving Delcy Rodriguez, second in command, there. And in the meantime, Donald Trump is also working on re-expropriating the natural assets of Venezuela, which were already expropriated from the people of Venezuela during the start of the Chavez administration when all oil was nationalized. So what we have here is mercantilism, plain and simple. This is in no way an endorsement of the Maduro regime. Rather, it is an outright condemnation for the evils in the Maduro regime and absolute outrage at the fact that those evils seem to be continuing. Some of them remain with Maduro's people. Nothing about the Maduro regime has fallen. Maduro has just been arrested. And some of them seem to be being overtaken by the Trump administration, which is now overseeing the administration of the natural assets that by right should belong to the Venezuelan people, who have now had their sovereignty denied several times. And again, please do go and watch Monday night's stream with Maria Alexandra, who again gave an excellent rundown of her thoughts on the situation as a Venezuelan. It is very much worth your time. Kyle, you're often accused of being a communist. Why are you so upset at this hour?
My anger is mostly for a later story.
Oh, so you're not angry about the Venezuela thing?
I mean, I'm angry that
I'm still
the
angry
U.S.
about
is
Venezuela.
once again launching a war against another country, but I'm mostly okay. I expect my government to do this. This is not a surprise to me. This is what they've always done. I'm angry that so many people are once again falling for the same shit. How many times can people learn the same lesson? People are once again parroting
They have to learn it once.
But narco terrorists, we have to invade because they've got fentanyl of mass destruction. They're not even, the Trump administration isn't even hiding the fact that it's about the oil, and that's what's so bizarre. Like the narco terrorist bullshit, like they dropped that narrative pretty quickly, and now Trump is just blatantly bragging about the fact that he granted the right to extract and sell their oil to certain companies he made deals with. And now that we're going to own their oil and we're going to make so much money. Like, they're not even pretending that this is about Venezuelan liberation the way they did with Iraq. They're just being mask off. Yeah, we overthrew an elected leader and took over a country because we wanted their oil. And people are still parroting the narco terrorist bullshit.
And I mean, there is a, I don't agree with it, say, but there is a neoconservative argument to be made that, this was a guy who was not democratically elected, was staying in power. There is an argument to be made. I mean, Trump's probably not the best person to be going on that fight, though. Considering
I think you should admire Maduro. Tucker Carlson likes him. I mean, socially conservative.
Even if you were going to do that, wouldn't you take the administration out and put the rightful person in power? And that didn't happen.
Yes.
So they can't even make the neoconservative argument that Republicans, back 20, 30 years ago would have made that, this is for democracy. And so some Republicans are trying to make that argument, but that's not what Trump is saying. It's this, it's the narco terrorism, or it's for the oil, as they've came right out and said. So they don't have a coherent message. It's all over the place. It's whatever reason they want it to be.
Well, and so, I mean, I at least appreciate the mask off. And so I will go a little bit mask off too here, insofar as, look, the Venezuelan people wanted different leadership and were not able to do so through normal channels. Mm-hmm. Now, again, mask off. There is an argument to be made for supporting a popularly organized and popularly led uprising. Now, that could have happened during the Biden administration. Biden was asleep or on some kind of drugs or something.
Right.
So it didn't happen.
Give them support, but let them do it. Let the people do it.
That is ideal. And if that doesn't happen, then again, a lot of time, we've done this before. You overthrow the dictator and then you install the elected leader. This is not complicated, right? This is not, we don't know who the people would want. No, we know. Unless 80% of the country has changed its mind since 18 months ago, we know who they would have wanted to lead.
Yeah, they all got on the Trump train, clearly. They want Trump running their country.
Well, and to be fair, like, a lot of them are extremely happy about what's happened, and I would be
that's
too.
normal. Yeah, people will celebrate the downfall of an authoritarian dictator. Like, I mean, people celebrated Saddam Hussein being taken out too. It's just that tends to go away pretty quickly when they realize that the new boss is not actually better than the old boss. They're just different, but they suck for slightly different reasons.
Well, and different hair, like one's brunette, one's blonde, I guess. And then we have certain accounts doing the straw man reading of all the people who are against this. That's against this is a very broad phrase anyhow. But everyone who's complaining at this hour would have preferred Maduro to stay in power. No. And actually, again, like I said, I can see an argument for having another administration go in and support this person being taken out. What I can't support is them once again expropriating the assets, leaving the second in command, who is just as awful, in charge. The social media director of Students for Liberty, whose recent hits, by the way, include a Wikipedia summary style whitewashing of Nikolai Bukharin, and no, I'm not making that up, recently posted that anyone who is protesting the way this was executed is overly moderate and trying not to sound too radical. I'm sure their donors were happy about that. They're very, very radical donors. But the fact is that what many of us, all of us, are protesting is not the fact that Maduro was taken out. It's the fact that you have the same regime still in power. You don't have plans to return any of the sovereignty. I don't see any plans to return any of the sovereignty to the Venezuelan people, which is where my, and I think all of our concerns are right now.
Right. They've had their sovereignty stripped from them how many times now? Okay. First, it was, I remember way back when the Chavez regime first took power. Like, I remember being like, you know, reading about some of the things he was doing. And I'm like, yeah, awesome. I'm glad he's kicking the fucking DEA agents out, and he's gonna start using their oil to benefit their people. I was like 20 at the time, so bear with me.
Oh, this was your like Bernie Sanders phase.
Yeah, I went
Yeah,
through
okay.
one of those, but
Yeah.
like I remember like a lot of people like were kind of celebrating what he was doing because they liked seeing the U.S. empire kicked out, and yeah, the idea that the oil was, rather than being used to benefit giant corporations based in the U.S., it was going to be used to benefit the Venezuelan people. But yeah, of course, I mean, as we have repeatedly seen with state socialism, that's not how it tends to work in practice. In practice, you just get a small minority of people who are in charge of all the resources. You get widespread mismanagement and corruption, and things don't actually get better for regular people. Now you just have the US coming in again and taking control of resources. And yeah, I can't see how this is going to benefit the Venezuelan people either.
Now, if it is true, as some people are saying, that all that the administration is trying to do is guarantee a peaceful transition of power, force Rodriguez to hold democratic elections, then everything goes over to whatever democratically elected candidate, do that. And also don't be taking the oil, don't be taking the natural resources.
We just want a peaceful transfer of oil. I mean, power.
Yeah. A peaceful transfer of petrol. Yeah, and surely there could be a deal arranged that would allow Gonzalez and Machado, or that would even cause Gonzalez and Machado to agree to share resources with the U.S. after this. So we don't have all the information. We don't know what all the motives were, but I highly doubt it had a whole lot to do with the welfare of the Venezuelan people. Yeah, the suffering, oppressed masses, no one cares about in power until they can be pawns. Kyle, is your ire only reserved for one particular story this evening?
Kyle's got
I think
plenty
that I got
of
most
hate
of
to go
my-
around.
I think that I got most of my thoughts and everything out on Venezuela on Monday. I have the thing that I want to mention before we get to Minneapolis, and it goes into this too. So I'd prefer to kind of end this one before going into the ICE shooting, if that's all right.
Okay. You said you do have one more thing to go into before going into Minneapolis, or?
I have a thing that I want to mention transitionally.
Okay. So we do have apparent word that there have been some prisoners released from Venezuela, which is, of course, very good. Various political prisoners have been let go at this hour, is what we are hearing. So again, there's definitely good stuff. None of us believe that Maduro should have stayed in power simply because the people did not have the institutional mechanisms to overthrow him. And I know that there are some libertarians who are saying as much in different words, and I don't agree with them. I think that sometimes action does need to be taken, and that's going to put me on the wrong side of a couple people. I understand that. But the fact is, the institutions were not functional for the Venezuelan people.
Right.
But when that happened,
There was an election, and the election was ignored. At that point, tyranny has, won, and so something has to be able to remove it. If the people themselves can't remove it, as libertarians, from self-ownership, we have the absolute moral obligation, the obligation to stick by our principles of self-ownership and to defend the people against that tyranny. So if there is a overwhelming dictatorial system like that under Maduro, absolutely, we have to fight it. Trump's attacks there aren't the issue. Trump stating that we now run Venezuela, Trump stating that we're taking their oil, Trump stating that this is about our resources, because he didn't just call them the Venezuelan resources, he called them ours. And he said that he was going to take the money from Venezuela personally, and that he was going to be the one to dole it out.
God,
These
how much
things
did the oil
are-
companies bribe him?
by the way,
It's
so
so
Yeah.
pathetic.
if you wanted an example of the claim that capitalism is not always free market, here it is. Here you go.
Yeah, I mean, I could rant
Absolutely.
for hours about conflationism, but we don't need to do that here.
Oh, we
so-
can. We always can. But
So we literally watched Venezuela going from having one dictatorial overlord to two.
at least two.
At least two.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the people of Venezuela are extra fucked because of what someone took our money to kill people with did. This was
Well,
not
it-
an attack for freedom.
And we probably put the freedom fighters in Venezuela at risk because now they are going to be rounded up, they're going to be found out, and they're going to be killed, tortured, whatever, because
Yep.
they half-assed the mission, or they didn't really have a full mission. The mission was Maduro was the mission, and that's the other thing. This seems to me to be a criminal justice matter the way it's being handled, just involving the military to get it carried out. But there was no political, attempt to protect any of the people that were giving us information, from what it appears. So now we just hurt them in the long run. The people that could have potentially overthrew the government now may be outed and no longer be in a position to do that in the future. We may have just really propped up somebody even much worse.
You cool if I transition it?
you can do the transition.
So this is a thing from me. This is I'm not trying to speak for all of LPA. This is
You can
certainly my
speak for
opinion.
me if you're gonna say what I think you're about to say.
So we're about to talk about Minneapolis, and we were coming from Venezuela. Donald Trump is attempting to stop us from having elections next year. And that sounds insane to some of you, so I'm going to enunciate it very clearly. Donald J. Trump, the president of these United States of America, is attempting to keep us from having elections next year. We're watching the tariffs kill businesses. We're watching ICE kill Americans. There's flagrant disregard for our people, for the people's constitutional rights, the rights that are inherent in people from self-ownership, that are enshrined and stated in the Bill of Rights. And all of these things are because Donald J. Trump is a proto-fascist. The last thing that a fascist ever needs to take over a country and to take over an entire society completely is to suspend elections via martial law. That's what's coming. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 of the Constitution, aka the suspension clause, is the only place in the Constitution where martial law may be argued to be valid. In that clause, it reads, quote, "The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it." Trump's rhetoric has been explicitly that there is an invasion via the so-called immigration crisis. It doesn't matter that immigration is bringing money into the country. It doesn't matter that it lowers crime. It doesn't matter that it raises wages. It doesn't matter that it builds us more housing. It doesn't fucking matter of all these things that immigration does well because he doesn't like brown people. But that's not even the full story, right? The actual story is that this is something so he can say that there is a crisis. He claims that the places like Chicago and Minneapolis are in open rebellion. He's said it multiple times and said that Tim Walsh should be thanking ICE for being there, for taking over Minneapolis and helping with the horrible way he's run his state. The attacks on the freedoms of the Venezuelans and the attacks on the peaceful migrants in the United States, as well as the attacks on people exercising their rights to protest, are all the things Donald Trump is using to set the stage for this fascist takeover. These things are all to set up a claim that he can't leave power. We're going to watch the murder of Renee Good in Minneapolis next, and we're going to have our commentary and opinions. As you watch this and you listen to the story, think about what's just been said. Think about how this is going to be used, and think about how we must work together to fight this. More about that fact after the story. So we're going to go through a lot of video, and that's going to be that. So we need specifically, I should have had one of these pulled up already. I'm sorry.
Can you pull up obviously the murder first, the longest video that you have, because there's some that goes before the car even drives out.
Yes.
This is an American citizen, by the way. This is not even anything close to she's not even brown, guys.
This is a soccer mom who, according to her
So-
family, has no history of any sort of political activism.
Correct. That's also in the things we're going to go through here. So this is where someone has taken the time to blend together all of the angles that we currently have of this video, showing exactly what's happening with some commentary. It's a few minutes long. We're going to let the whole thing play. It's 3 minutes, 57 seconds.
On Wednesday, in Minneapolis, a federal agent fatally shot a motorist, 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good. Trump administration officials said these were, quote, defensive shots, fired because the officer was being run over.
And a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over.
But our analysis of bystander footage, filmed from different angles, appears to show the agent was not in the path of the victim's SUV when he fired 3 shots at close range. Here's how events unfolded. Moments before the shooting, the victim's maroon SUV is stopped in the middle of the street. Multiple unmarked federal vehicles are idling nearby. Secretary Noem alleged the motorist, quote, was blocking the officers in. Bystanders are blowing whistles and yelling at federal agents.
Go home to Texas!
Then, federal vehicles start moving toward the maroon SUV, with sirens and lights blaring. A federal agent films the scene on his phone. The driver rolls forward slightly, turning left, then stops and waves for others to go ahead. 2 agents exit this silver pickup and walk toward the vehicle. Moments later, shots are fired. Let's look at the scene again more closely. This is the agent who shoots the driver. He walks around the car filming and disappears from view. Other agents pull up and order the driver to exit her vehicle. One of them grabs at the door handle and reaches inside. The SUV reverses, then turns right, apparently attempting to leave. At the same time, the agent filming crosses toward the left of the vehicle and grabs his gun. He opens fire on the motorist and continues shooting as she drives past. The moment the agent fires, he is standing here, to the left of the SUV, and the wheels are pointing to the right, away from the agent. This appears to conflict with allegations that the SUV was ramming or about to ram the officer. President Trump and others said the federal agent was hit by the SUV, often pointing to another video filmed from a different angle. And it's true that at this moment in this grainy low-resolution footage, it does look like the agent is being struck by the SUV. But when we synchronize it with the first clip, we can see the agent is not being run over. In fact, his feet are positioned away from the SUV. The SUV crashes into a white car parked down the road. A bystander runs toward the collision. The federal agents on scene do not appear to rush to provide emergency medical care. Eventually, the agent who shot the motorist approaches the vehicle. Seconds later, he turns back around and tells his colleagues to call 911.
Shame! You shot someone! You shot someone!
Agents block several bystanders who attempt to provide medical care, including one who identifies himself as a physician.
I go check a pulse.
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician.
I don't care.
At the same time, several agents, including the agent who opened fire, get in their vehicles and drive off, apparently altering the active crime scene.
So that is our first portion. There was going to have a section with the physician portion, but we don't have that anymore. The next thing we have here, this is from the Department of Justice Policy on Use of Force. From Title I, firearms may not be discharged solely to disable moving vehicles. Specifically, firearms may not be discharged at a moving vehicle unless 1, a person in the vehicle is threatening the officer or another person with deadly force by means other than the vehicle, or 2, the vehicle is operated in a manner that threatens to cause death or serious physical injury, and no other objectively reasonable means of defense appears to exist, which includes moving out of the path of the vehicle. Similarly, placing oneself in the path of a moving vehicle constitutes officer-created jeopardy and undermines any claim that deadly force was necessary. There's a claim that people have made that the woman was attempting to attack the officer. So I have here from Elaine Joan, who has been a great voice for liberty over the years, a great libertarian. She's worked with multiple candidates, and she's got an explanation of what it's like to have someone actually point a gun at you while they're wearing a badge. If you've never been held at gunpoint by a cop, you have absolutely no idea how you react to it, full stop. I was 19 years old. I had never been around firearms up to that point in my life. I was in an SUV with 3 other friends. We were planning to go to the canal downtown and get dinner at a diner. When we left my friend's apartment complex, we could see 10 plus yards ahead that police cars were blocking the exit. We didn't know why, so my friend made a legal U-turn to go towards the other entrance. The next thing I remember is a gun less than 12 inches from my face. He was screaming and I started screaming too. I was terrified. It was July and the windows were down. There was nothing between me and the gun, and it immediately registered that his finger was on the trigger. My entire body reacted immediately. No thoughts except screaming alarm bells ringing in my head. They'd been looking for a black man who was waving a gun around and threatening some of the residents, but we didn't know that. And my friend in the driver's seat was a 20-something black male. Another car with 2 more of my friends in it was also stopped. They put both of them on the ground in cuffs. They weren't even black. They cuffed them anyway. They took the maintenance man running up and yelling they had the wrong guy before they lowered their weapons. I was fearful of law enforcement officers and firearms for several years following that incident. So when I say I believe that Renee Good panicked and may not have even realized where all the agents were around her, I'm speaking from a lived experience that still bothers me almost 20 years later. They have also, this is also Minneapolis, and what we've seen is ICE rolling up to people and literally just assaulting people on the fucking sidewalks. What we see is the agent who killed someone is one who has been in trouble in the last year for attacking a vehicle and ending up being drugged by that vehicle because he didn't follow policy and ended up having his arm caught on the glass that he had shattered in the back of a car as the car attempted to run. This man, Jonathan E. Ross, is the same one who's been part of ICE for a decade. Schools have closed because of the incident, except for the fact that, so that's what's being reported. Because of Renee
Good.
Renee Good being shot, that schools were closed. But that's not the entire story either. ICE has been attacking students on school campuses, dragging students to the ground, tackling students in the same area, 3 blocks away from where Renee was murdered. Similarly, we have another case today where 2 people were shot by federal officers in Oregon, specifically, again, Border Patrol and Customs. And then ICE making the claim that Renee had attempted to attack an officer. This is what ICE is doing to people. That's what it looks like when someone gets hit by a car. In case you're not aware, I'm sorry, I don't think I actually shared that one. I apologize. I'm more than a little angry. Here you go. This is what it looks like when someone gets hit by a car. That's what it looks to get clipped by a car, even at a relatively low speed. You get chucked. This is because, as is obvious to anyone who has ever been around a vehicle, they're heavy. You're talking about a 6,000-pound truck. For something like the Honda Pilot, you're talking about a 45-plus 100-pound vehicle. You don't lightly get pushed backwards if a car hits you. You get thrown. The momentum is incredible. What is happening in these situations, what's happening in Venezuela, what's happening with ICE, is that Donald Trump is trying to tear the actual foundations of the country apart so that he can say we don't have any reason to have elections and that we must have someone like him take martial law into account and be the leader of the country through a crisis. What we are watching is the erosion of all of the liberties of Americans. This is why groups like LP Alliance exist. We are here because everyone here needs to be taking up actions. People need to be making sure that they are protesting and make sure that when ICE pulls a gun out to shoot another woman in the head who's on her way back from dropping her kid off at a school, which is what the stories actually turned out to be from multiple people who were there, rather than the blatant lies told by the Trump administration and ICE, that those officers don't go home that day. That is where we are and what needs to be happening. We are watching Americans die because of it.
This was so clearly a person who just panicked and was trying to get away from the ICE agents. There's so much emphasis on whether she deliberately tried to run. You know what? No, that ICE agent wasn't fucking hit by the car, but I fucking wish he was. I wish that piece of shit had been flattened by that car.
If he had been in front of the car, if he'd been directly in front of the vehicle, he wouldn't have fired, because if he had been directly in front of the vehicle, then the woman would have died and run him over.
This is actual libertarianism. People have a right to defend themselves and their communities from a hostile invading force, launching a campaign of terror against the members of the community. Okay? People have a right to fight back against an occupying force, and that's what ICE is at this point. Okay, that woman did not try to run over ICE agents. She was using her First Amendment right to watch and record agents of the state. She was not looking, she did not go there looking for trouble. She was not interfering in a law enforcement matter, whatever other bullshit excuses these rightoids are making for these ICE agents. But even, okay, I fucking wish she had run over that piece of shit. We need to start fighting back, because clearly, this idea that, oh, the courts are going to sort this out. People just need to sue. This guy needs to be charged with murder. That's not going to happen. They're going to investigate themselves and find themselves innocent.
This is
listening to their mayor get on stage and talk about how he wants ICE out of his city, and then go back to his secure, protected mansion with his private security guards. Okay, empty words.
Goddamn right.
Either instruct your local authorities to fucking shoot these pieces of shit on sight, or shut the fuck up.
This is the problem with. This is why.
And to respond to this idea that, oh, that's just going to escalate things. No. Okay, it's going to escalate things. We're well beyond that point already.
Don't worry, they'll escalate it themselves.
Exactly. They'll just create the crisis that they need themselves. Like, we're well beyond the point where we have to worry about, we can't possibly escalate things. No, communities need to start fighting back, because this may be their last chance to do anything about this.
Craig, I really like Craig. But
here's
the issue.
Yeah. The justice system isn't going to do shit.
Here's the problem. At a certain point, even calling for an institutional investigation, an institutional carriage of justice, is an affirmation of the institutions. They've already, by the way, investigated themselves and found no wrongdoing. And they have excluded other agencies from helping in the investigation. But
the FBI
this is what
and DOJ today specifically blocked
the institutions. The institutions that we have are either corrupted or impotent. That's what we're looking at. Not every judge is okay with what's going on, and we know this because judges have issued injunctions against these actions. What's happened?
They've been ignored.
What's happened? What can they do?
They just say, "Oh, it's an activist judge. We don't have to abide by the ruling."
To call for the institutions that are either perpetuating this or powerless to stop it to do something is to call on the system to police itself. The system is not able to police itself. There is no justice to be found within the current institutions that we have, and there needs to be justice. There is no justice to be found within our current institutions.
Yeah, no, every damn one of these agents deserves to be made into a good federal agent.
This is exactly why in solidarity streams and in previous business lists and everything else with LPA, there's been this push that a common understanding of the non-aggression pact or non-aggression principle is complete bullshit. And
Yeah,
that was a
no, it's
corollary
so cucked. It is
from
so cucked. It is self
ownership.
The state is the aggressor in every single instance because the state, its entire existence is built upon force and coercion. You cannot aggress against agents of the state because they, by their very nature of existence, are regressing.
Surprised no one to know that I've written on this. And it like had a particular section where I
hate
talk
the way
about
the NAP has been weaponized and turned into. I hate the way it's been warped into something it's not and then weaponized against us.
well, it's a corollary, yes, that follows from self-ownership or self-authorship.
Oh,
Pick your
please,
poison.
government, we
But-
promise we're not a threat. No, fuck you.
Well, like what happens, by the way, if this is taken
Yeah,
to,
I'm
to
angry.
SCOTUS and SCOTUS decides that this was unconstitutional? What happens?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The ICE agents will continue doing what they're doing. Get on stage and do his usual word salad bullshit about how he's right and he can do what he wants.
Well, in many
probably-
ways, the damage has already been done. Even if it ends, the damage has been done.
And there
A
will
lot
be
of damage has been done.
there will be no accountability. Okay, wow, something is ruled unconstitutional. There's never any accountability for the people who are doing something blatantly unconstitutional.
I similarly want to point something out to the people that routinely scream about us being Democrats effectively.
Jake's been
They use
trying-
words like this.
Yeah, Democrats.
Jake doesn't get
they
opinions.
think they can just use. Democrats are the ones thinking that they can just use the court system to get justice.
And we
But-
can't. Greg, I'm sorry, we can't. But go on, Jake.
Oh, well, I think there's, this is something I've been warning about for a while, right? We've got a problem where states don't want these federal agents in there. They do not want them, and the federal government has pushed them into areas for just reason, basically to be a bully. And we are in a very similar time as the country was back in the 60s, back in the 50s and 60s. Here in Arkansas, we had that happen, right? Where we had federal troops on the ground. Obviously, that was to integrate schools for a good thing, to follow out a constitutional order. But very, very well could have back then ended up, we had the governor here in Arkansas calling up the National Guard, the President Eisenhower federalizing troops. We may very well see a situation like that where we have a civil war looks a little bit different, quite a bit different to what it did in the 1850s, but you have civil unrest and you've got the state governments fighting the federal government and a whole bunch of soldiers, military, police being thrown in the middle of it. As far as, how to respond, responding with violence is going to create a whole nother issue. I do believe the best path, generally speaking, there is a time when you yourself are being threatened, but to go out and commit violence in response to it is not a good idea. That will give them every excuse they have to declare their martial laws, to declare their states of emergency, and they will use their propaganda machine to make everyone else look bad, radical. Like the best solution is to show what is being happened, let people see the violence that's inherent in what they're doing. And that way does work. That way worked very well for the civil rights movement. If they would have been if Martin Luther King Jr. had been violent, I don't think he would have got the reaction that he did. If Rosa
You had
Parks had been
Malcolm X,
violent.
But you're
I think
mistaken.
You did have Malcolm X. You did have
But
some of that. But I
Martin
don't,
Luther King's the bridge that everyone hears about as being peaceful is a lie. It is a whitewashed lie from the government, and you can look this one up. The most successful thing that ever happened in Montgomery with that bridge was them standing on the other side of it with guns, and when the officers attempted to attack them, they had a full-blown riot against them. The way you stop tyranny is to show that tyranny that if it doesn't stop, it dies.
So it occurred to me, like, at an embarrassingly old age, that the reason why they teach you, oh, Martin Luther King won the civil rights movement by peaceful protest. Yeah, there's a reason why the state teaches you that, because they don't want to teach you that violent insurrection actually fucking works.
Chris,
Yeah, they want you to believe
I
that if
didn't
you
mean to,
just
like,
stand
attack
there
you, Jake.
asking nicely and hold up signs that you'll get what you want. No.
I
When has that ever done anything? When has protest ever done anything?
think it's a tool, and I also
I
think
agree.
that Craig,
I'm not saying don't protest. Yes,
Well, right,
it
of
has
course.
its place.
I-
but yeah. the
Craig is
state-
going to think that I'm attacking him. I'm not. So that was several years ago that the state of Minnesota put Derek Chauvin in prison.
He was
That's
a piece
also
of shit who
well,
would
and
have
he was
thrown you in prison
and
for
that's
having something the
also-
state arbitrarily declared
that's
illegal.
also one person. It's not institution versus institution. By this point, we cannot be petitioning the institutions of power to do something about the institutions of power. Because even if they do
We are
something,
the
they
institutions of
won't,
power now.
thank you, they won't do anything. Even if they do something, they won't do anything because they lack the enforcement capacity. These institutions are defunct. We cannot call on these institutions. Of course, it would be wonderful if the officer were in prison. That's not going to make the problem go away. It's not. And so often, I think we have, and I started writing something. This was initially in response to the Swiss bar fire of all things. Tragically, on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, there was a video of this fire. For those who don't know, in Switzerland, and it was clearly rage. It was a grotesque, real life reenactment of the "This Is Fine" dog meme, where there was a fire that was burning. And someone had said something about, and people died, and something about how, well, maybe contemporary society has just gotten so safe that people won't notice when there's a real problem. And no. This is toxic agreeability. This is what happens when you sort of merge a desire to be agreeable and a conditioning toward agreeability with a high level of cognitive dissonance, or even like a moderate level of cognitive dissonance. We all have it. We all experience. We all do it every day.
Uh-huh.
We justify every single damn one of us. But it happens when you think, I'm waiting for the other person to show me that something is wrong. And if nothing is wrong, then there's no reason to act. And if nobody's acting, then nothing is wrong. And so it becomes endemic very, very quickly. We have toxic agreeability, and this is how tyranny is able to rise and prevail. This culture of toxic agreeability, this is, I'll know when it's bad enough.
Or
And-
things like everyone's waiting for things to just get a little bit worse, or they're waiting for someone else to make the first move. And they can, this is every single genocide that's happened in history. You can read about people who things were bad, but they were just waiting for somebody to make a move.
Well, and I think when people quit speaking out, that's when we know we've got a real problem. When people are just so afraid that they will not speak on these issues. And we've not gotten to that point yet. I mean, we're all here freely. I don't think we're going to be picked up by Secret Service tomorrow or anything like that yet. I hope not, sent to El Salvador. But when people get to that point that they're afraid that they can no longer speak against the government, against the mayor, against the president, against the, whoever. And right now we still have that where people are freely speaking. And that is a very good thing that we still haven't lost that yet. And we have to keep speaking because the second that we give that up and we go hide and we go cower like the Democrats have done, then we completely lose everything. And this has been going on for many years. I mean, Congress abdicated their authority decades ago on war. They abdicated their authority on national security, and all this power has been given to the executive branch. And I can remember not that many years ago when Republicans were telling me that Barack Obama was trying to going to stay in office and he wasn't going to leave office. And Barack Obama had roughly the same powers that Donald Trump has. If we have another, president, and everything, they're going to have roughly the same powers that Donald Trump has today, because it's all been given to them. And there's no one, Congress is not going to step up and stop them. The Supreme Court could try, but they don't really have an army. They don't have any standing to do that. It is a dangerous time. We're not a democratic republic anymore. We're more of an anocracy that somewhere we have some democratic freedoms, like the freedom to speak. Nobody is. Yeah, they've tried to silence people on some media. That's been happening for years, left and right. We still generally have that freedom, though. We still generally have some political freedom. The courts do somewhat work for some things. So we don't have that level of chaos. Well, yeah.
We can get on here and say what we're saying. We'll just probably end up on
shadow
watch list. But we already know we're on watch list. So
yeah.
If they're competent enough to make the watch list, and I'm not convinced
it's a wonder they let me fly without a real ID. Just after every subsequent podcast, I'm like, is this going to be the month?
And that's the other thing. These guys can't make the trains run on time. So that is kind of the saving grace of all this. That we may buy us a little bit
they're
more time.
watching everyone, they're watching no one. But this is potentially not going to, with the high-tech AI surveillance state, that may change.
So I think Jake has a point. It's valid. What I will say, in addition to that, is that there is, there's a chilling effect on speech that happens in a couple ways. One is exactly the one that Jake articulated, which is where you're afraid to speak up because you're afraid of something bad happening to you. The other is being afraid to admit to yourself what's going on because you were afraid that something bad is happening and you don't want it to be true. And I have seen this in certain facets of the libertarian community, broadly speaking. There's a desire to preserve this halcyon image of America. The American people are something to be proud of. The spirit that incepted America is something to be proud of. That's what we need to serve. Not a particular government, not a particular flag, not a particular story or desire to do a certain thing on the 4th of July. There is a spirit and a people to fight for that is currently being defiled by the people who are currently in charge. And I want to discourage anyone from blinding themselves to what is going on out of a desire for things to get better or be good. The America that you grew up in doesn't exist anymore. It could be better. It can come back and be even better, but it doesn't exist anymore.
It hasn't for a long time, but people are not ready for that conversation. I mean, I've been screaming at the wall about this since the Patriot Act was passed. I was a teenager at the time.
The Patriot Act is what directly led to ICE.
Uh-huh. I told people that, I'm like,
told everyone 25 years ago.
I distinctly remember having this argument with my parents. They're like, it's just temporary. And they were lifelong Democrats too. They were not Bush supporters. And they're like, it's just temporary because terrorism. I'm like, no, this is going to be turned again. Okay, first of all, the government never relinquishes power that it sees. And it's just going to be used against you. This is one of those things that I don't even want to be right. I did not want to be right about this. Okay, I'm not trying to say I told you so. Like,
Rose, what shocks me now,
wrong,
though,
but I wasn't.
Is there libertarians that we have to? We're arguing with fellow libertarians because they think there should be immigration controls or whatever. Okay, they have in effect. I'm watching them. I'm watching them support a papers, please society when the state can come up and ask anyone for their papers at any given time for any reason, pull them out of the car. And that's what happens when you've got our thought leaders saying put the entire effing military at the border. That's what happens when you get to that point, and that's why we're in the situation where libertarians can't. I think maybe now we're starting to call this out, but haven't called this out. We have been we've missed it. We've missed our opportunity to call out these injustices. And that's what I talk about. There are certain people that are afraid to speak. There are certain people that are silenced by them because they're going to be insulted. They're going to be made fun of. They're going to be, called names, whatever else. And that also has they've done a good job of silencing fellow libertarians. And they really have.
I think we've missed our opportunity to silence past injustices. I don't think the opportunity is ever fully gone to call out. Yeah.
And we still can speak. We can still
yes.
speak freely. We're speaking freely. And I think people should keep doing that, because the second that's whenever you know that it's things have gone too far, is when you can no longer speak. People in Russia cannot go criticize Vladimir Putin. People in Iran occasionally do, but they generally know better than
they're
to call out the
such
supreme
a huge
leader.
risk.
Right. And we can still do that.
And yes,
at some
Alexa
point
is correct about being Cassandras. We are
Well,
Cassandras.
I will tell you that this is not necessarily my view, but with the Libertarian International, we're incorporating in the United States, and there's some concern about what we say as a group right now as we're working to incorporate, because of the ease with which someone can, go after, tax fraud, or go after the organization for tax fraud. So it's beginning to be a concern. And again, I think Jake is correct in terms of, how there were several opportunities before this, to the effect that we're now doing battle with other self-declared libertarians on these very libertarian issues. I'm not saying, because I don't think this is true, I'm not saying this is the only thing that caused it. But I think what helps keep us divided and confused in this movement is, again, this failure to properly understand that anyone who is for self-ownership, self-authorship, and against totalitarianism is our ally. There are so many people who are looking at this video and who are saying, well, this woman probably deserved it because she's probably a radical left lunatic. Okay, if you're saying that, you're saying this woman was probably a commie who deserved it. And so because she doesn't share my economic philosophy, we're on a different team. Guess what? Welcome to no war but class war bullshit. You're a Marxist, okay? Mm-hmm. So as long as you continue dividing things along this line, you're going to continue to get statism. You're going to continue to get totalitarianism. The enemy is the state. It always has been. It always will be. It is not voluntary choice. It's not voluntary interactions. If you are cheering the state because you think that the person that they destroyed had a different philosophy of how to exchange goods, congratulations, you're a Marxist. You're a Marxist-Leninist, particularly.
Yeah, the number of libertarians that I'm seeing tripping over themselves to simp for these fucking ICE agents just because they think they just assume this woman must be on the other team, and so therefore they're cheering because it's disgusting. If you're a libertarian and you call yourself a libertarian and you're simping for federal agents, you're a fucking cuck. Get the fuck out of our movement. You are not a libertarian. You are a hardcore statist bootlicker.
And I think it was the New York Times that did an interview
be a libertarian
with people
and simp for the feds
with the Charlie Kirk stuff, and it was interesting how different sides, if you will, different people with different perspectives see things in an entirely different light. There were people with Charlie Kirk that had been, I wouldn't necessarily say supporters of him, but had watched that happen, and they assume that all violence is happening because of the left. And in their perspective, in their media ecosystem, that's what they're seeing, right? All violence comes from the left. They're not seeing any violence that happens on the right. And likewise, there are people on the left that will see this ICE thing, but don't think much about Charlie Kirk or don't think anything. And it has created a real divide. And, Amanda, you were talking about the divide But that's where civil wars generally happen. It's not North versus South. It's Afghanistan. It's a whole bunch of different groups, different people trying to fight, people turning their neighbors in, people settling personal disputes through a broader social problem. And they're using the state and they're using the other groups to fight amongst each other. But the breakdown I've seen is that people are all in their own echo chambers, if you will. They don't talk to one another. They don't know that somebody can have a different perspective. And it's getting to the point that people are thinking everyone on another side is violent. Everyone on another side wants to kill them. And sadly, it's going to start to become that way, where more and more people do become violent, where more and more people do, because they think the other side is Satan. That's Rwanda. How did they get the Tutsis and the Hutus? You call the other side cockroaches, and you do it for years and years and years and years, and eventually it boils over, and you have 100,000 people, or you have nearly 1 million people. You have people murdered, machetes. Entire population genocide.
The system is working exactly as it's supposed to. The whole point in voting isn't so that you actually have a say in what the state is doing. It's to get you to be on one side and your neighbors to be voting for the other team. And then when the state does something you don't like, you just get angry at your neighbor for voting for the wrong team. Oh, I voted for Team Red. They voted for Team Blue. This is all their fault. It's entirely by design. It just pits people against each other, gets regular people blaming each other for their problems.
The reason, and Amanda's made fun of me on here before for me going back to the Constitution and acting like the Constitution is all powerful. But the reason the Second Amendment is there is because the Constitution and the founders of the country understood that when you give a monopoly on violence to a government, you're dead. Your rights are gone. The Second Amendment is there so that when the government steps on your rights, you make a militia.
Yeah, I love it when people who call themselves patriots are the ones simping for federal agents. They're the same ones that they would have been loyalists back during the Revolutionary War. They would have been simping for the British and talking about how the patriots should have just complied. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure Jake got in. He looked like he was going to talk. And Jake has been the best behaved out of all of us on this podcast.
He's the less
by far.
He's the least angry here.
No, I don't know if he's least angry. Jake is just like the most measured.
I'm always
the most
angry. I've been angry. But sadly, I've been, for the past couple of years, I had a friend. Well, I have a friend, Brian Jack Holder, and I was always all the time talking to me about the upcoming Civil War, the upcoming civil violence. I thought, well, we may see some violence like we did in the '60s, but I thought he was a little bit out there with it. But a few years ago, I started, I read into the fourth turning theory, which I mostly agree with. I think there's a few things that may be a little bit flawed with it. But the idea that we're in a revolutionary cycle in American history, it happens roughly every 80 years. We're in that cycle. The cycle before, before this would have been World War II, Civil War, American Revolution. And we're in that time. The institutions are breaking down. They're falling apart. And you can see it falling apart. For 25 years, you can see it falling apart financially. Our media has fallen apart. The governments, all the institutions are falling apart. And believe it's up to us to build something better from it and to try to make sure there's as least amount of bad stuff, I will just say, as can happen. But the second that people, quit speaking, and the second that people quit talking to their neighbors, and that's already started to happen, that's where we're going to see this. And people are picking sides. I could see it, the 2016 election. I remember it became just as simple as vote red, vote blue. I'd never heard people talk like that before. It wasn't even voting for a candidate. It was all voting for the colors of the political parties. And it makes it very difficult to third party campaigns like that. When I ran for governor, you couldn't do that today in the same way, because you're all talking national issues. It was hard in 2018 to talk about, local state issues that we were having. Yeah. All politics is national now.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And everyone's attention is
I would argue
national.
it's
Nobody
international.
knows who their comptroller. Yes, well, we're getting there. Nobody knows who their comptroller is. Nobody cares who the comptroller is. You've got an uncontested election, and then there's only a libertarian running for comptroller. Great, but don't neglect the national political issues, the international ones too. As Kyle says, I'm just going to go all out. So you've got crests and troughs, all right. And so I think Jake is correct insofar. Kyle just like turned his camera off. He's like, I'm done. Yeah, Jake's once again right about the fact that no single person can dictate what kind of cycle we're in, right? In terms of revolutionary behavior, troughs, crests. It's a crest right now. No single one of us engineered that ourselves, but we're here. It's happening. And we have a responsibility, whether we like it or not, to steer that wave. It will happen whether we're part of it or not, and we need to be part of it. We need to steer it. We need to direct it. And that was what so much of the No King stuff was about and will continue to be about in the coming year, sure.
Damn right.
Yeah, as
No
Frank Zappa
King's,
said, there's no way to delay
investigated.
that trouble coming every day, though, and that is true. It's going to happen. We're not going to stop that. But we might be able to make it a little bit better. We might be able to land it a lot better for us and to build something that's going to be truly remarkable.
Well,
and
again,
that's the optimistic view of it.
Well, yeah.
I won't go into the pessimistic view.
Well, we can't just watch and help out. I think that's what I want to discourage people from believing. It's like watch and give aid from the comfort of your no. Because then what you're doing is this is all ideology. This is an ideological struggle, and I'm not talking about them in the sense of like capitalism versus communism. I'm not talking about that. This is a much greater struggle than all of that. And what we need to be doing is we need to be shaping that discourse, that momentum, that movement. I want us to move in a good direction. I want us to and that's only going to happen with us at the helm. So, Jocelyn, I've told Jake that he's right because I feel like we're all ganging up on him, including me, and I want to show how I agree with him in certain situations.
I was worried that I had scared him.
No. I'm used to dealing
We're
with
all
the Mises
yelling
caucus
here.
anyway, though. So
right.
I'm fine. I'm fine
Gotcha.
with it.
So you're already used to dealing with Rose.
We told Jake that we hated him actually right before we went on air. That's a true story. So
thankfully, I don't think Jake was ever one of the ones I was an asshole to when I was still in the Mises caucus.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, because I was certainly an asshole to plenty of people. I will acknowledge that.
There we go.
So I realized that kind of derailed a heavy part of the episode,
No,
but I think it was an important thing to say.
that we hate Jake.
Fuck
Yeah.
you, Jake.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, we have been accused of being secret meatcocks, so
I think
Truth
that's
is going to be
hilarious.
on here and going to be your biggest fan now. He's
There we
coming
go.
back.
Oh, poor. I miss Truth. Truth is
We can
probably
unban him if you want.
in CCOT or something right now. I'm sure of it. All right. I think we're through with this episode. Are we on for Tina Teen tomorrow, Kyle? Because I know that we had gone back and forth.
She
on
said
that.
yes.
Okay. So we are actually probably definitely going to be speaking with one of the great libertarians from the country of Georgia, not the state, which does not count, tomorrow. And that will be in the morning, but we
Ain't
will
nothing
re-air it
more than Georgia.
in the evening. Join us again for a solidarity stream on Tuesday. And again on Thursday for the business list. Until next time, everyone, we are the business list.
No. This time she's getting stopped because she skipped too early.
I did.
Support the LPA.
Support the LPA.
Right for the torch.
Right
Buy
for the
some
torch. Go to
merchandise.
torch.media. If you want to get involved, go to discord.gg/LP-Alliance. Please do that. And the support the LPA, by the way, that there is no overhead there. It is literally all going to getting 100 Povertarians to Grand Rapids. So do that, please. You can write that off, actually. We're 527, so you can write that off of your taxes. Is that correct? Did I lie? No.
I have no clue if that's true.
She just gave bad tax advice. Now we're gonna get a lawsuit.
I'm okay with the tax strike anyhow at this point, so it's all
Look,
fine. I'm gonna get
She's
arrested
only the
later
president
tonight.
of the spending committee. Why would she know how that works?
I'm trying to get us to get money.
We're gonna say anarchy. And we're gonna say anarchy. Full transparency. Now I wanna see anarchists on the business list. Destroy!